If you're over 60, there are 5 seemingly harmless things in your daily routine that could be silently and cruelly amplifying your anxiety. What I'm about to reveal will surprise you, because over decades of helping people who felt inexplicably agitated, I discovered that the true villains of our tranquility lurk where we least expect them. That feeling of a racing heart that comes out of nowhere, the restlessness that seems inexplicable, the sleep that eludes you just when you need it most. If you feel this way, you're not imagining it. Your anxiety may be fueled by habits you consider safe, even healthy. Over the years of observing how small changes in routine completely transform the emotional well-being of people of our generation, I've noticed a disturbing pattern. Things we do thinking we're taking care of ourselves may actually be working against our inner peace. It's like discovering that the medicine we take for one pain is actually causing another. A 68-year-old woman came to my office reporting that her anxiety had worsened dramatically in recent months, even though she maintained her usual routine. When we investigated further, we discovered that 5 small, seemingly innocent habits were creating a perfect storm in her mind. The transformation after eliminating these triggers was so dramatic that it completely changed my approach to elderly patients. The cruelest thing is that every day you ignore these traps is another day of suffering you don't deserve to live. Our generation has already faced so many challenges in life that we deserve to enjoy every moment with serenity. It's unfair that small details sabotage the tranquility we strive so hard to achieve. If you recognize that feeling of being constantly on alert, of sensing something is wrong but not being able to pinpoint what it is, your life could take a new direction today. I'll show you exactly what these 5 hidden traps are and, more importantly, how to neutralize each of them using natural methods that respect your body's wisdom. You don't have to continue experiencing this emotional roller coaster. There's a scientific explanation for what you're feeling, and there's a practical solution you can implement today. Type yes. If you do things thinking you are taking care of yourself but feel that your anxiety continues or has even worsened recently, what impresses me most after decades of working with people of our generation is witnessing transformations that seem like miracles, but are actually just the result of eliminating interferences that have been sabotaging our inner peace for years. I remember a 72-year-old patient who came to me desperate because her anxiety had become unbearable. She would wake up with her heart racing, spend the day with a constant feeling that something terrible was going to happen, and at night she couldn't rest her mind. During our conversation, I discovered that she had intensified some habits she considered healthy, precisely to combat her anxiety. What happened in the following months was extraordinary. After we identified and neutralized these hidden traps, she called me emotionally, telling me that for the first time in years, she had woken up with that Sunday morning feeling we had when we were younger. You know, that wonderful tranquility, unhurried, without urgent worries pounding in your head. This transformation wasn't unique. A 69-year-old man who had developed an inexplicable aversion to leaving the house discovered that 3 small adjustments to his morning routine restored his courage to live. He started visiting friends again, resumed his walks in the park, and most importantly, regained the curiosity for life he thought he had lost forever. It's fascinating how differently our minds work after 60. What worked when we were younger can become our silent enemy now. Our nervous system has matured, our sensitivity has increased, and paradoxically, this can be a great advantage if we know how to use it to our advantage. One of the most touching things I witness is when people rediscover the ability to be truly present. That ability we once had to sit on a porch, watch the street scene, and feel genuine peace in our hearts. It wasn't laziness or lack of things to do, it was emotional wisdom that the rush of modern life has made us forget. Often, what we interpret as anxiety is actually our body's signal to return to our natural rhythm. Our generation lived through times when things were slower, relationships were deeper, and there was room to breathe between activities. This rhythm is still within us. It's just been muffled by interference we don't even realize is there. The most exciting thing is discovering that small changes can trigger profound transformations. When we eliminate the right obstacles, our natural tranquility returns, like water flowing again when we remove stones from a stream. We're not creating something new. We're simply allowing our most serene essence to manifest again. And best of all, these changes don't require painful sacrifices or complicated routines. In fact, they often mean doing less, not more. It means honoring our inner wisdom and stopping forcing our minds to function in ways that no longer align with who we've become. The biggest mistake I see is how people of our generation consume information first thing in the morning without realizing that they are literally injecting anxiety directly into their nervous system before they even have their first cup of coffee. You wake up, pick up your cell phone or turn on the television, and within minutes, your mind is bombarded with news of tragedies, crimes, economic crises, political conflicts, and a swarm of negative information that our brain interprets as real and immediate threats. The problem is that our nervous system can't distinguish between a real danger in our home and news about something that happened on the other side of the world. After age 60, our minds work differently. We have more life experience, which means we can more vividly imagine the consequences of bad situations. When we hear about an accident, our minds immediately project scenarios, recalling similar situations we've experienced, and creating a cascade of worries that weren't there before. A 71-year-old patient told me she began experiencing inexplicable anxiety every morning. Investigating her routine, I discovered she had developed the habit of watching the 6 a.m. news while drinking coffee. In just 30 minutes, she received a concentrated dose of bad news that set the emotional tone for the entire day. Her nervous system remained in a constant state of alert, as if facing real danger. What neuroscience reveals about this is impressive. Our brains produce cortisol, the stress hormone, in response to both real and imagined threats. When we wake up and immediately consume alarming content, we're programming our nervous system to remain in survival mode throughout the day. It's as if we scare ourselves as soon as we open our eyes. The solution I developed is surprisingly simple, yet revolutionary. Establish a sacred rule, without exceptions, of at least 2 hours of information fasting every morning. This means no news, no social media, no conversations about world problems until you've created a solid emotional foundation for the day. Instead, use these first hours for activities that nourish your soul. It could be watching the birds through the window, watering the plants, making a special coffee, or simply sitting in silence, feeling grateful for another day of life. Our grandparents did this naturally because there were few distractions, and they possessed a serenity that our generation can recapture. One transformation I witnessed completely changed my understanding of this. A 67-year-old man who had suffered from morning anxiety for 5 years decided to implement this rule. For the first 3 days, he confessed to me that he felt restless, not knowing what was happening in the world. But in the second week, something magical happened. He began to notice details he'd lost sight of years ago. The sound of birds that had always been there, but which he no longer heard. The aroma of coffee that truly reached him. The texture of the cup in his hands. The morning light streaming through the window in a way he hadn't seen in decades. It was as if he were rediscovering the world through senses that had been dormant. After a month, he called me excitedly, telling me that for the first time in years, he was waking up with curiosity about the day instead of worry. His wife commented that he had started smiling spontaneously again, something she couldn't remember seeing him do. The rule is simple but must be rigorous. In the first 2 hours of the day, your mind is a sacred garden that deserves to be watered only with thoughts and experiences that promote inner peace. The world and its problems can wait. Your peace of mind cannot. Tell us what's the first thing you do when you wake up. Just the first thing. No judgment. We want to understand how many people are starting the day poisoning themselves without realizing it. The specific application I've developed for our post-60 reality involves recognizing how too many social engagements, even seemingly pleasurable ones, can be taxing our emotional systems in ways we don't realize. Our generation was raised with the belief that we need to be constantly busy to be productive and happy. Retirement came with the social pressure to fill every free moment with activities, groups, meetings, and events, as if idleness were our enemy. What I've discovered is that this mindset is creating a subtle but devastating anxiety in many people after 60. A 74-year-old woman came to me reporting that she felt emotionally drained, even though she was only doing things she enjoyed. She participated in 3 different groups, had social engagements almost every day, visited family regularly, and maintained a busier social schedule than many 30-year-olds. In theory, she should have been fulfilled. In practice, she was on the verge of a nervous breakdown. The problem wasn't the activities themselves, but the complete absence of empty spaces in life. Our brains need moments of non-doing to process experiences, integrate memories, and simply exist without purpose. When we eliminate all moments of pause, we create a cognitive overload that manifests as generalized anxiety. Neuroscience shows that our brains have 2 main modes of functioning: active mode, when we're focused on tasks, and default mode, when we're seemingly doing nothing. What we've discovered is that default mode is crucial to our mental health. It's where emotional maintenance, learning consolidation, and nervous system restoration occur. For our generation, this is even more critical. At 60, 70, 80, we accumulate decades of experiences that need to be constantly reorganized in our minds. When we don't give this natural process space to occur, our minds become saturated like a computer with overflowing memory that begins to function slowly. The transformation I witnessed with this patient was remarkable. We suggested that she choose only the activities that truly energized her, not just the ones she considered important. She cut her commitments in half and created what we call sacred nothing times in her schedule. These times weren't for resting in the traditional sense, but for existing without a specific purpose. Sitting in her favorite armchair without a book, without television, without conversation, just being. Watching the clouds, feeling her breath, letting her mind wander freely. At first, she felt guilty for not being productive, but within a few weeks, she discovered something extraordinary. She began to gain creative insights into situations that had been worrying her for months. Solutions to family problems appeared spontaneously during these empty moments. Precious memories buried beneath the rush of life resurfaced, bringing a sense of connection to her own history that she hadn't felt in years. The most striking thing was realizing that her anxiety wasn't caused by real problems, but by a lack of mental time to process life's normal experiences. It was like trying to cram too many clothes into a suitcase. The more you squeeze, the messier everything becomes. We implemented a simple but revolutionary rule. For every social commitment accepted, she should guarantee an equivalent period of contemplative solitude. If she went to a 2-hour lunch, she would need 2 hours of silence in the following days. Not to recover physical energy, but to emotionally digest the experience. Today, she tells me she's rediscovered the genuine pleasure of social activities because she's no longer doing them out of obligation or to fill a void. Each encounter has become more meaningful because she has the mental space to fully absorb the experience. Reflect honestly on your schedule. Do you have regular moments of absolute nothingness, without guilt, without goals, just to exist in peace with yourself? If you can do only one thing today to reduce your anxiety, it's to eliminate the seemingly healthy habit of constantly checking on the well-being of others, especially your adult children and grandchildren, because this excessive worry is creating a state of hypervigilance that keeps your nervous system permanently alert. Our generation was raised with the sacred responsibility of caring for our families, and this protective instinct doesn't disappear when our children grow up. The problem is that, combined with modern technology, This natural care has become a constant source of anxiety that didn't exist when we were younger. Our parents didn't know where we were every minute of the day, and that was normal and healthy. A 69-year-old patient came to me because she developed unexplained anxiety that worsened during the week. We discovered she had developed a habit of sending daily messages to her 3 adult children, asking how they were doing, checking if they arrived safely at work, if they had eaten a proper lunch, and if the weather wasn't affecting her plans. It seemed like affection, but in reality, it was an emotional trap. Each message he sent created an expectation of a response that kept his mind on hold. When his children took a long time to respond, his imagination conjured up catastrophic scenarios: traffic accidents, problems at work, marital disputes, financial difficulties. His mind was restless because there was always a lingering concern about someone's well-being. What psychology reveals about this is fascinating. There are 2 types of love: liberating love and binding love. Liberating love trusts in others' ability to care for themselves. Binding love needs constant checking and control to feel at peace. After 60, we often turn our genuine love into anxiety disguised as care. The solution I developed respects both our protective instincts and our need for peace of mind. We set aside specific days of the week for family contact and create a ritual of emotional surrender on the other days. It's as if we give our loved ones permission to live their lives without our constant, loving supervision. We also implemented what I called a prayer of reassurance for times of worry. Instead of sending a text checking in, she would spend 5 minutes sending positive thoughts and reassurance to her loved one, but without expecting an immediate response or contact. The transformation was impressive. In the first few weeks, she felt restless during the days without contact, as if she were neglecting her motherly duties. But gradually, she discovered something liberating. Her children began to spontaneously seek her out more often because they no longer felt pressured to respond to constant check-ins. Most importantly, she rediscovered the ability to live her own life without being emotionally connected to other people's daily ups and downs. She realized it had been years since she'd spent an entire day focused on her own experiences, her own feelings, her own projects. An unexpected discovery was that her anxiety dramatically decreased, not only regarding her family, but in all areas of her life. It was as if she had freed up enormous emotional energy that was being wasted on unnecessary worry. This energy returned to her own life in the form of creativity, curiosity, and enthusiasm for personal projects. True love includes the courage to let the people we love live their own journeys, with their own challenges and achievements, without our constant interference. This isn't abandonment, it's emotional maturity. It's trusting that we raised them well, that we instilled solid values, and that we can now rest in that certainty. If you're enjoying these discoveries about how small adjustments can transform our peace of mind, subscribe to the channel because every week I bring insights specific to our generation, based on years of experience helping people rediscover the serenity they deserve after a lifetime of caring for others. A common mistake I see is how many people in our generation have started taking too many supplements and vitamins, believing that the more they take, the better it will be for their mental and physical health. The problem is that our bodies process substances differently after 60, and excess of certain nutrients can overload the liver and kidneys, creating a subtle chemical imbalance that manifests as irritability, insomnia, and unexplained anxiety. Excess B vitamins, for example, can cause agitation and nervousness. Too much magnesium can cause drowsiness during the day and restlessness at night. Energy supplements can keep the nervous system in a constant state of alert, even when we want to relax. What works is a minimalist approach. Instead of taking everything that promises benefits, choose only 2 or 3 supplements that are truly necessary, based on specific medical tests, and observe how your body responds for at least 30 days before adding anything new. I remember a patient who was taking 12 different supplements and couldn't understand why she felt more anxious than before she started taking care of herself. When we reduced the supplements to just vitamin D and omega-3, her calmness returned within 2 weeks. Share to prevent loved ones from making the mistakes that many people make without realizing it, thinking they are taking care of themselves but are actually creating new imbalances. The last 2 elements that complete this picture of hidden traps are even more surprising because they involve habits that our own family and doctors often recommend as healthy. The 4th element is overhydration, guided by apps or rigid rules that don't consider our physiological reality after 60. Many people have started to force themselves to drink 2 or 3 liters of water a day, following generic guidelines from the internet, without realizing that they are creating an electrolyte imbalance that directly affects the functioning of the nervous system. Our kidneys mature with us and can struggle to process large volumes of water in a short period of time. When we force ourselves to overhydrate, we dilute essential minerals like sodium and potassium, creating a condition called mild hyponatremia, which manifests as mental confusion, irritability, and a feeling of weakness that we interpret as anxiety. A 66-year-old woman came to me because she developed unusual anxiety accompanied by mild dizziness. We discovered she had started drinking 2.5 liters of water daily after reading that it would prevent dementia. When we adjusted her hydration to 1.5 liters spread throughout the day and added a pinch of sea salt to her first glass of water in the morning, her symptoms disappeared within a week. The 5th and final element is the cruelest of all, because it involves the social pressure to keep up with technologies that overload our mental processing capacity. Exercise apps, medication reminders, family WhatsApp groups, social media to stay in touch with distant relatives. All of this creates constant cognitive overload. Our generation didn't grow up with this incessant digital stimulation. Our brains need more time to process technological information. And when we try to keep up with younger generations, we create cognitive stress that manifests as diffuse anxiety and feelings of inadequacy. A 73-year-old man told me he'd felt dumb and anxious since his children gave him a smartphone. He spent hours trying to understand apps, responded to dozens of messages a day in family groups, and constantly checked to see if he was doing everything correctly. His self-esteem plummeted and his anxiety skyrocketed. The solution was to create respectful technological boundaries. He chose only 3 essential apps, set specific times to check messages, and communicated to his family that he would respond at his own pace. Most importantly, he gave himself permission not to understand everything, and that was liberating. What I've learned from observing hundreds of transformations is that our generation possesses an emotional wisdom that modern technologies can disrupt if we're not careful. We have decades of experience living more simply and contemplatively. We don't need to give up this wisdom to adapt to the modern world. The key is to consciously choose which aspects of modernity add value to our lives and which merely create unnecessary noise. We are not obliged to function at the pace demanded by today's world. We can create our own rhythm based on what truly matters to our inner peace. Each of these 5 elements, informational overhydration, limitless social engagement, constant checking on others' well-being, disordered supplementation, and technological overload, seems harmless in isolation. But when combined, they create a perfect storm that sabotages our natural tranquility. The good news is that you don't have to eliminate everything at once. Choose the element that makes the most sense for your situation and commit to adjusting only that aspect for the next 7 days. Observe how your body and mind respond. Small changes can lead to big transformations when targeted in the right ways. Your answer here could save someone's day. Comment on which element you chose: more motivational words, real-life examples, information fasting, more hopeful, or technological limits, more determined. Someone reading your comment today needs the positive energy you'll convey. We've reached the end of a journey of discovery that can mark the beginning of a new phase in your relationship with tranquility. What I've shared today aren't just techniques or suggestions. They're keys to reclaiming something that's always been yours by right. The serenity that comes with maturity and wisdom. Our generation lived through times when life had a more human pace, where there was room to breathe between activities, where we weren't bombarded with unnecessary information, where self-care was simpler and more intuitive. This essence is still within you. It's just been temporarily obscured by modern traps that we can neutralize. Remember, you're not trying to become a different person. You're simply removing obstacles that prevent your calmer nature from manifesting. It's like cleaning the windows of a house. The light was always there. It just needed clarity to enter. Every small adjustment you make, based on what we've discussed today, is a gift you give to yourself and everyone around you. When we are at peace, we radiate that peace to our surroundings. When we are anxious, we also transmit that energy. Caring for your peace of mind is an act of collective love. If this content brought you relief or hope, please like the video so more people of our generation can find this information. Comments are always welcome because they create a community of mutual support among people who understand our unique challenges. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to receive weekly content specific to our age group, always based on science, but delivered with the care we deserve. And if you have a family member or friend who also struggles with anxiety after 60, share this video because everyone deserves to rediscover inner peace. See you in the next video, and remember, your peace of mind is not a luxury. It is a basic need that you can and should rescue.